The room was hot with tension long before anyone spoke. Cameras flashed like lightning across the crowded hearing chamber, and the air hummed with the low murmur of voices waiting for someone to strike the match. When Congresswoman Lauren Boebert leaned forward, the silver microphone reflecting in her sharp gaze, the storm broke. "Maybe," she said, her voice cutting through the noise, "if the gentleman from New York had read the bill, he'd understand what we're talking about." The crowd murmured. Staffers whispered. And at the far end of the polished oak table, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. didn't flinch. He simply looked at the thick packet of papers in front of him, the very bill Boebert was referring to, before raising his eyes to meet hers. The silence stretched. Cameras zoomed in. Every breath in the room felt measured. Then Kennedy spoke, soft but steady. "I did read the bill," he said. But more importantly, he turned the document over and held it up for the cameras. "I read the date stamp." The room stilled. Across the top of the first page, just above the title, was a faint mark revised, 2:37 a.m. this morning. Boebert blinked. The aide beside her froze mid-sentence. Kennedy set the papers down gently, his voice calm but razor-sharp. "This bill," he continued, "was changed hours before this hearing. New clauses were inserted. Sections were removed. And you're asking us to debate it like it's the same text we reviewed last week." He looked around the table, his words deliberate. "That's not democracy. That's theater." A quiet gasp rippled through the chamber. Kennedy had walked into that room expecting confrontation. What he didn't expect was the weight of history pressing down on him like a shadow of his family's name. Every time he stood before Congress, every time he faced a wall of flashing cameras and political smirks, he could almost feel his father's and uncle's ghosts behind him, men who had spoken truth when truth came at a cost. But this hearing was different. The bill on the table was a massive environmental reform package, promising new protections for land and air, but hidden within it was a clause that would hand millions in subsidies to private energy interests. Kennedy had spotted it late the night before. No one was supposed to. That morning, while Washington still slept, he'd sat alone in his office, lit only by a desk lamp, flipping through page after page until his eyes caught that tiny timestamp. It wasn't just a bureaucratic note, it was a quiet confession of manipulation. He remembered calling his assistant, Nora, a young law clerk barely out of college. "Nora, double-check this," he'd said, pointing to the corner of the page. She'd squinted and frowned. "Sir, that wasn't there yesterday," she said softly. And that was when Kennedy knew someone was rewriting laws while pretending to uphold them. Now, in the hearing room, the fallout began. Boebert tried to recover. "Mr. Kennedy, no 1 foot.